What up, this is July from Kickback Couture. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made a beat for Saba. So I started off with this organ right here. Really simple chord progression. The sound comes from DB33 by Air. And I dialed this in myself, so it's not a preset. You can copy it if you screenshot this, if you have it, and use it. The next thing I added was bass. The next thing I added from there was this tape recorder texture, which I don't think, I wonder how that happened. -4. Never seen that before. Anyways, just to have something going on in the background. These keys, more like a music box sound. Then we move out of that section and we go into the verse, and I have my drums. I believe I forgot to talk about this texture right here, so that's what that one is. And back to the verse. My drums, no different sounds. That's what my drum pattern looks like using the new drum sequencer. I have a limiter on my kick and a meter so I can see where it's hitting prior to my alterations in the mixer. I usually make sure it's hitting at -5 or below. The kick I used was the cage kick. The snare I used was the stock rim snare. And all of these drums come from the Spyder Drumkit. Looks like this. Did something pretty cool with the percussion. So rather than playing it each time, I put a note echo on it. I brought the repeats down to 2 so that it repeats it twice every time I press the key. And the step length is at 1/4. So in a sense, it's kind of like a delay, but I don't have the velocity decreasing, I have it increasing. And it's tempo synced. So what it looks like in the sequencer is this. It's a single note that plays all 3 times. So that's a cool trick when you're doing your percussion. Especially if you're doing like bongos, like the triplets, the da-da-da. Stuff like that. It's really easy to program with this, and also with the drum sequencer that we now have access to with the Reason 10.1 upgrade. And that's the flesh tambourine from the Spyder Drumkit. I'm using the mold hi-hat and the coordinate open hi-hat, and that sums it up for my drums. On to the next section. I bring this texture in. Moving on to the next section. I have pads and I have an 808 now. one thing I want to talk about with the two basses is how I sidechained both of them to the kick. So if you watch my videos, you know that I often have, well, I always have a bass group. So what I did was I routed both my 808 and my acoustic bass to a new output bus, and I named it bass group. And with this bass group, I sidechained it to the kick. So each time the kick hits, the bass is going to duck. And I would normally do this to my 808, but in this case I have two basses. So that's why I created the bass group, so that it works on both of them. So what that looks like is just coming to the bass group. It's gonna look like this if it's a bus, and right clicking this sidechain input right here, and you're just gonna select the kick, and it looks like the right isn't connected for some reason. So let's figure that one out. Kick, cool. And we're gonna go kick, mix channel, parallel. And it doesn't actually matter because they're mono. I totally forgot. So yeah, that's what that looks like in the rack. And then back in the mixer, it's going to light up the key button under the compressor section. So we can go ahead and close the insert section. Whoops. Where's it at? Right here. So it's gonna light up this key, and what that means is you've initiated the sidechaining. But it's not gonna work until you turn this compressor on. And these are the settings that I picked for the sidechain compression. And you can see it ducking down. Every time the kick hits, just slightly. It has a really fast release, so it's not too audible, but it's there. And this right here is the gain reduction it's doing on this bass group. Back to the sequencer, we can go into the next section of the beat. And the only difference here is that I've automated the volume of the 808 so that when it stops playing, it can get out of the way of the acoustic bass. So this is what it sounds like. Since they're right next to each other, I don't want them overlapping. So this is what it would sound like without the automation. See how it took a while to dial down, and that's not what I wanted. So following this section, we have, the hook, and no new sounds here. I did, however, change the pattern to just the hi-hat and the snare and the open hi-hat, open hat. We go back into the verse. We hit another hook. Then I have an outro. And in this outro, I have a new instrument, which is a flute. Just a little solo to finish the track out. And for that smooth ending, rather than it being abrupt, I automated the level to have it turn down on that last note. So without the automation, it's gonna sound something like this. I thought it would sound much better this way. Fade out. And then I have the track fade out here, and that's the end of the song. So this beat is 70 beats per minute, and it is in B minor. I think it turned out pretty nice. It's really laid back. Definitely room for some melodic phrases vocal wise. So I have a couple things that I need to plug in before the end of this video. I did utilize the sends, so if you get this kick and you're like, mine doesn't sound like that, well, I implemented some distortion from Scream. So what that looks like is this. I'm using the digital distortion and my resolution is set here, while the rate is set like this, damage control, all that. So if you want these settings, you can screenshot this right now, copy it, have fun. And I dialed it in like this. Just turn on this button, and then I have my kick distorted. So this is it without it. Still a punchy kick. One thing I'm going to do that I just noticed is turn up the release in the NXT, because it is being cut off and there's a pop at the end. So, and that is just a result of the drum sequencer. The gate opens and closes so fast that the entirety of the sample doesn't play out. So when you're using the drum sequencer, make sure that you have your release all the way up on your drums so that there's no pops at the end or anything like that. Besides that, I added reverb, and the reverb comes from FabFilter's Pro R, and that looks like this. And I used a room setting, and it's the subtle room setting, and then I just dialed it into taste depending on what the sound was. So for example, with the snare, this is without it. This is with it. Definitely kind of brought it to life there in the midst of the track. And that is it. So if you like this video, give it a like, comment, subscribe. Most definitely let me know what you would like to see next. It's all culture, kick back, and cook up.